There we go. Now we're recording locally. So, yeah. Google's like, I have 1 billion accounts. Because how many people here have more than one Google account?
I only have
Who
one.
has less than 5? Come on.
Yeah,
Right.
True.
that's fair now.
All for different uses.
I don't have one.
I don't know what you're talking about. 4? Okay.
My Google account was when Google actually started their Gmail because my friend told me to sign up for it.
Yep. I have. There's a couple old Gmail, Google accounts that I had that I don't use anymore and that are probably gone. I can't get into them because I don't know the password at all. But yeah, Google needs to be like, hey, Evan, which account am I adding this event to? You need to let me know who am I adding this to. Ooh, David made it. So before OAuth, if Evan wanted to push stuff to the calendar, Evan would need Sergio's account information to then log in as Sergio, but that's kind of risky, right? Sergio over here giving his Google account, email, and password to a third-party company, and that means that Evan now has access to everything that all of Sergio's Google account stuff, all of Sergio's stuff. He can just do anything he wants. And potentially that means he's also saving that password. Sergio is now trusting that Evan isn't going to save this information as raw data to the database to be able to use later on. And now there's almost no way for Sergio to deny that unless he goes in and changes his password. And even then, Evan still has the email account, so Evan LLC could try to do some hacking, maybe try to figure out that password that was changed. So OAuth, yeah. So
OAuth, now that if you try to log in, it says you get on your phone, like you try to log in, is this you? So
yeah. Well, now OAuth 2 exists. Don't ask me about OAuth 1. I didn't really research what OAuth 1 was. It's OAuth 2 is just an improvement on OAuth. That's all you need to know. Similar concept. What OAuth 2, on the other hand, does is Evan now says, hey, Google, I have someone who wants to, God damn it, Google, stop.
Google's gonna get you.
I'm a Google house, so so Evan goes to Google and says, "Yo, Google." That's not an activator. Great. Yo, Google. I need to. No, it did activate that. Stop. Stop.
Yo, Google.
Really? That worked? Dang it. Yo, Google.
Oh, no. Just
Yo,
say
G.
the
There we
word,
go. Hey, G. We'll just say, hey, G. There we go.
Google
So
is
Google is
coming
just
for
referred to
you.
G now. Google is now referred to as G to save my poor house. You know what? 2 seconds. I'm going to look up something quick. There's got to be a command to say tell Google to stop listening.
why don't you just call it? Why don't you just say alphabet?
In no other context, you'll hear Cliff go,
Wait, couldn't
yo,
you just
G.
mute it? Cliff, doesn't it have like a little button on the side that has mute?
Probably, but I wonder if I can just tell it to, like if there's a command to say, hey, ignore me for an hour.
I think it just
Very unlikely.
Just say, hey, don't respond to me for like an hour.
Just an hour?
Yeah, just for class. I also need to do it with my phone too, don't forget. It's lagging for some reason. Let's see if there is, otherwise we'll just have to do the word G. I'll have to look it up later. Dang it. The right term to look up is not there. Because it's like, go into your settings. And so I'm like, I just want to tell it to ignore me for 5 minutes, for like 2 hours. Hey, Google, stop listening to me for 2 hours.
Sorry, I didn't understand.
Damn it.
Didn't
So
understand.
I actually did on my phone.
I'll look it up later.
Okay, Google.
Google's just
Just
gonna
ask if the FBI is listening, and then they'll shut right up.
be.
Cliff, you can't tell it to stop listening. It can't harvest your data that way.
I don't care if it's listening. I just want it to stop responding to me. So I just don't want it to activate. That's all I care. I already know everything's listening. I'm done. Like Amazon is our, my neighbor probably has Amazon and it's listening to me right now probably. So like I already know all this.
Just call Google Alphabet. We know what it is.
Oh, there we go. So yeah, A alphabet. It didn't turn on. Nice.
Oh, life hack.
I was waiting for that. So yeah. Hey Alphabet. So Evan goes, hey Alphabet, I want to be able to act as a certain user of yours. And so Alphabet's like, all right, here's a link, have them log in. And it's a Google link. So Sergio then gets a Google link, so google.com login link that is coded for Evan LLC. So it's google.com, and this is not actually it, but it's the, and what Sergio does when Sergio goes here, he sees, hey, just so you know, Evan LLC wants to be able to do these things. Evan LLC wants to be able to access your Google Calendar, create events, see events, and access your contacts so I can add people to these events. So he goes, yep, I'm okay with that. So I'll then put in my username and password as a way of saying, yep, I am Sergio. I am the person saying, yes, they can have access. When Sergio does this, Alphabet then sends back to Evan, okay, here's a token that you can now use, auth token, that you can use that lets us know this is your approval from Sergio to say you can do these things. And so now whenever Sergio creates an event on Evan's site, Evan can then send to Google, to Alphabet, that event plus the auth token, which then Google says, okay, cool, you can do this, you're allowed to do this. I'll go ahead and update Sergio's calendar. And that way, when Taylor goes ahead and says, hey, I want to create an event, Evan can again, so hey, I need another link. Taylor goes to here, logs in under his account, and then gets a different token for Taylor. That then when Taylor then creates an event, Evan can send that token to Alphabet, and then Taylor gets an event. And so that's the purpose of OAuth. But since some of this occurs on that front end, because Sergio needs to go to google.com in order to log in, that's where it's kind of a hybrid system. It's not just an API only system. All right.
So,
you need some way to get that token.
right.
What you
So
can do, of course. Oh, go ahead, Jim.
I was just thinking, so that's why basically at some point though, you just scrap the Spring Boot auth and just go with OAuth 2 because it will just log me in and I can have access to Google.
If you want to.
You don't have to worry about a bearer token. I don't have to worry about anything. I'm just going to do OAuth and just do whatever I need.
You can. That's a service that Google provides. That is not a service that OAuth provides. It is a service that Google provides. Google provides login capabilities. So you can get the detail items you need and you can set that up. So
I
that's
have
another
an
Google
OAuth
API.
2 account.
Yeah.
And I can actually do my own OAuth 2 like
Right.
login. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Well, I was going to say, I should say, yeah. JP, what is it? Spring Security does have a OAuth version of it. But again, it's more complex. So I decided just to stick with the JSON Web Token. So that's a very common system.
yeah, no, that is. And
Yep.
that most likely is, but I was.
But yeah, 100% because of how it works, especially if you go with their Firebase system that they have, they provide authentication system services. So instead of you creating your own authentication service, you can use Google's authentication service that people would just use your site by logging into their Google account. So you would create an account with your site via their Google account. So, but this wouldn't stop you from needing a user record in your database to work with JPA security. So just be aware of that. You would still need that to be able to authorize that this person's it and this person is a valid person and who they are in your database. So still would be a thing. So it's not going to save you much effort. Even then, I don't want, personally as just a developer, it's good to use things that exist in the meantime, but eventually you want to switch over. This is things like Uber did this. For a long time, Uber was using Google Maps in their application, but they were paying for that API. Eventually, Uber has now switched to their own proprietary mapping system. It was shitty at first, which there were a lot of complaints on Uber's mapping system in the beginning, and a lot of the drivers, even today, still will switch over to Google Maps to get their instructions. But this means that the benefit, though, is that Uber is no longer paying for it. They're no longer paying for Google. Their users are using Google themselves, paying any sort of data fees themselves. Whereas, yeah, if Uber is at least saying, hey, we're providing you instructions through our system. If you want to use Google or Waze, that's up to you. This is the instructions we're providing you, and this is what we're expecting. This is the route we're expecting you to take. So But that's something like, that's just an example that I can give out. And a lot of sites will do this. They'll work with a already existing system in the beginning, and eventually, as they get big enough, they will eventually build out their own system and use a proprietary system for certain things. So, but certain things you'll just stick using the third party because it's worth it. And the effort it would take to, and the benefits to the users are overwhelming. Because yeah, the calendar system of Google, a lot of people use it, so it might be better to always provide a Google Calendar and never build your own proprietary calendar, but you still could. That's the goal actually would be to pull away from using other APIs because you don't want to share your profits with those companies. But at the same time, when you get large enough, these companies, they provide you discounts because they want you to use their service, because the more people that use their service, the better it is for them, because then they continue to use that service. So at a certain point, it might be beneficial for Google to say, you know what, you can use our Google Calendar API for free because it's good for us that your people are using our service. It's keeping them on Google and we're collecting the data, which means, yeah, you're not paying them, but you're paying them. You're just paying them with your customers' data. So just be aware of that. You are still paying with data. Yeah, that's the concept of OAuth. But one thing, like I said, for your API, what you can do is you can have, if instead of in order to bypass the front end in the beginning, because you may not have a front end yet, is you have a get route that simply returns the OAuth URL. And then the what you're going to see in OAuth is something called a callback URL. This is going to call back to your API. So this is going to send most likely a GET request, I believe is what it does. It's a GET request to your API because it's going to send the browser to that. And so browsers always are GET requests. And so when the person logs in, it's going to try to send them to a URL on their browser. So that's going to be a GET request. GET request to your API. And in that GET request, again, check the documentation on it. Somewhere in that callback URL, there's going to be a token, OAuth token, that you want to save to your system. Once you have that, then your API can utilize that to make all the other calls. And then that is just the simple, the same API calls we made before, the HTTP requests. And so that's one thing you need to look at for the documentation. There's probably a Google Calendar wrapper feature, which comes with objects and comes with some easier typing code where you're not actually typing out API requests like an Axios or something like that. I'm getting feedback. I'll try doing this. Hello? You will hear me? Is anybody getting that kickback or feedback, like audio issue? Okay, good. So
I was just asking a question.
Oh, go ahead.
This part over here where you were just talking about the GET requests and stuff.
Yeah.
This stuff is all the front end. The front end is going to
Yes.
get the URL. It's going to get the callback, and then in the JSON response should have a token or some type of token we can extract from, and then be able to send that back to the back end, right?
Again, hold on. This is again to clarify. This is a workaround for not having a front end. What I'm showing here. All this is returning is a generic URL. So that's yes. In the front end, you're just going to send them to this URL. You're not going to show this to the user. But since we don't have a front end, what am I saying? What Evan's API can do in the long run, this URL here shouldn't exist later. You won't need this request later because the front end will just know the URL because it's a generic URL. It's a standardized URL. That's why I pointed it out like this. It's something like this where there's an identifier here that is the same identifier whether Sergio goes to it, Taylor goes to it, Emilio goes to it, Jim or Freddie. No matter who goes to it.
Yeah, I remember seeing things like that. Google wants you access to whatever. Yeah, no, I remember that screen when they come up.
Hold on, I'll make sure people don't get lost because you jump in. So everyone's gonna get the same URL. So really all this is doing is just giving that URL so that I can attempt to log in. And then once that person logs in, all OAuth systems, once you hit that login button and you're successful, OAuth 2 systems will then trigger a callback because what they're expecting, again, they're expecting you from your website, from evan.com, evanllc.com, is going to send them here, and then google.com is going to send back to go back to evanllc.com / the catch location for the OAuth, for the response from the OAuth, where it's expecting to get the OAuth token of a successful login or unsuccessful, where it's going to get the results of the OAuth login. Whether the person changed their mind or actually logged in. And so then that endpoint will then depend on that. It is because it's expecting to go back to the website. I can guarantee it is a GET request. That callback is a GET request with the data. So that, of course, can be your API. You can make that your API. When you set up your OAuth account with Google, or when you create or when you do the auth URL, you might do the question mark parameters, where it's like callback. Why am I using my mouse? Am I literally holding my pen as I use the mouse? Callback equals, and then you put the URL here. And so that's some of the OAuth systems do it that way, where yes, the URL here is the same, and then you have the call, you include the callback to Google, and then they will, once the person successfully logs in, they will send the request to this URL. So since you provide the URL to them, you can make that your API. Simple enough. And the API can enter. Now that does mean that your browser is going to probably not show anything. You can just show the text success and then close it. You can also show the tokens if you need the front end person to be able to provide that token, but you don't if you're going to be saving it to your database. So Evan, for what you could do is, once on your API, the callback comes with a token, you save the token to the database, and then you just return a message, success. And I didn't spell success right at all, but success. So you just send back a success message, and that just shows up in plain text to the user. And then you have the token. So then any other calls will just pull the token from their profile. And so this would be an API version of the OAuth system. But I will say that OAuth is designed around front-end systems. It's designed around front end. OAuth 2 is would be a front end friendly way of authorizing yourself for third-party applications or third-party application integration.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. And again, this is just so you can act as your customers or your clients, however you want to word them.
Okay, I see.
Yep. So that would be what I would look into. And like I said, so the last thing I was going to try to say is that, let me go ahead, and if anyone wants to take a screenshot of this, go ahead, but it's recording, so you can get it from the video. If you want to take a screenshot, grab it now. Yep, there it is, an NPM package for Google Calendar. Nice, Eridan. So yeah, so that can help you out when you're ready for the front end side of it. You can use the thing that Eridan just shared in the chat on Zoom. So, but for the back end, yeah, there's probably two likely ways. Anybody need more time to grab this, or are we good? And Jim, Evan, if you grabbed it, you can feel free to share it in Zoom if anyone else wants it. I want to clear it quick.
Yeah, I'll share it.
There's two ways you can interact with this. Most likely in most systems, there's two ways that your API can interact. One is through a package, or also known as a SDK. Anyone know what this stands for?
Software development kit.
Yep, software developer kit. So it's a wrapper. And with the Java SDK, you'll most likely get objects and classes that make interacting with the system more easier or less, I don't want to word this, API calling. So instead of building your own API requests, the other way to work with it is, yes, with HTTP requests. Using the Google Calendar documentation, you can probably find the HTTP endpoints. And so then you can use the same thing we did when we want to have our API. When we did our Geeky Likes interact with the news API, you would do the same thing there. You would do the HTTP templates and create requests where you can send data and recover data in JSON format with Google Cloud with the system. So whenever you're working with an external API or a third-party system, there's usually two ways to interact with it. Either with the company will provide an SDK for your language, which again, for Java comes with objects and classes and methods. Forgot that, classes with methods. That will make the system easier. So there'll probably be a calendar API where you can say, hey, you'll say new calendar interface probably. So you'll have an instance of a calendar interface and you'll do .set token. So .set OAuth token, you'll give it the OAuth token, and then you will to run methods. Hey, create event, get events, and it returns certain things. And you'll have to follow documentation on that SDK. Otherwise, on this case, you'll have to do the HTTP templates. We have to create your own objects, as we saw before. When we wanted to do the news API, we had to create our own source and article endpoint. Remember that correctly? Go back here.
And you have to make your own
quick.
entities and stuff to build those.
That's what I'm saying.
If you're
Well,
playing this.
you're still doing the, yeah, if you're still, that doesn't matter with the, yeah, you don't need entities, you just need objects. Entities are only needed if you plan to store it in your database, which is not part of the, which is, again, not based on the API you're using. What I'm saying here is on our payloads, where are those things?
Oh, yeah,
Here we
yeah,
are.
yeah, that's right.
Here we are, API, response, and yeah, we had our article and our, which also had this source object as well. So we had source and then the actual article object as well. So we had article there. So this was the concept we had. We had a, if you don't use a SDK, you're going to have to create these objects, and you're not seeing that because I'm doing a whiteboard session. So I'm literally showing my Java right now, and you can't see that. Why did anybody say anything? Wait, that's not the right
I was gonna
one.
be like, wait, are we supposed to be saying that?
Yes, yes, you are. Here it is. So like we did in our GUI likes for the news API, we had to create this article with the source object as well. And so we had to create this object to accept the data from the API, as well as we needed to send data to it. You would have to create request objects and response objects. You see here, here's the news response as well. So news response comes in as a list of articles and all that fun stuff. Yeah, so that's the thing to keep in mind. If you go the back to the whiteboard, should still have the data there. Yep, good. So this with the HTTP requests, yes, you have more freedom, but you are going to have to create your own objects, classes, and methods. So this would definitely be more creating from scratch, but again, you might be able to understand it better, and you also don't have to bring in all the extra methods and features that you might not utilize. I can guarantee that the Google Calendar package system has a lot of high-end features and capabilities in there that you may not need. And so on one hand, could this make this easier? Yes, but at the same time, could it be a little more confusing because of how much complex system in there, because of all the ways a person could use it. There's multiple different ways people can use Google Calendars as a third-party user of it. So it could be a bit daunting looking at the documentation, and you maybe get confused by it. But this will be the easiest way to grow your usability, how much you're using that system, because again, it is usually built by the provider. Google's most likely providing this SDK. Whereas this system, you definitely only build what you need. It only has what you need, but you do have to build more. So there's likely more overall coding than this overall, but again, you can make it much more simpler.
Essentially, on the right side, you're essentially making your own little SDK.
Technically, yeah, you can argue that. Yeah, this is kind of making your own SDK. So
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
the SDK does HTTP requests. It's just providing you with the objects and classes and methods that they created, and then you're utilizing them. Whereas, yeah, in this case, you're making your own objects that you can then, that you understand, that maybe make more sense to you. Sound good?
Sounds good.
There's a problem exporting that out, and you could bring in those into your other packages or other projects in the future.
Oh, 100%. That's why I wanted to make, that's why I did want to have a quick little discussion about OAuth, because for your projects, you're probably going to be working with more robust APIs than my simple news API that I got into, potentially. And we didn't talk about OAuth. Maybe at this time, and you guys, a lot of you guys are getting into them. Maybe we can do a lesson where we do an OAuth, maybe, or something like that. We can do one ourselves. I'll have to find one that I feel comfortable working with you guys, but because, yeah, I don't want to work with daytime because that can get confusing. Let's pick a different one. Maybe we would work with the Twitter OAuth. That might work. We would probably do, if we were to do one, we maybe work with the Twitter system and do a Twitter OAuth. Because that one I think might be the easiest to work with. We can act as a person being able to post a tweet as someone, or look at their tweets, be able to pull their tweets that they recently made and post on their behalf without having to show them a tweet screen where they have to click tweet. So maybe we can do that if there's enough need for it. If enough of you guys are like, I'm dealing with OAuth, I'm dealing with OAuth. If a lot of you guys find out you're dealing with OAuth and want to see a demonstration of that, we can see if we can squeeze that in. Sound good?
Yep.
Okay, any other questions? Otherwise, I think we're going to get into our geek out system for the front end. So you guys can see an example of working with a singular element.
I guess one other tricky item Jim and I are gonna have to figure out is how to get the microservices to communicate with each other, especially when they're dependent, if there's a microservice that's dependent on another.
Yeah, we can look into that. But yeah, there's more things. Can you say that one more time to make sure we got it clear? So it's clear for the video.
Yeah, sure. To get the microservice, another tricky item Jim and I are still trying to figure out how to deal with is getting the microservices to not necessarily connected, as there's ways to do that, like with the Eureka server and API gateway, and I'll get more into that. I can get more into that later, but when, like, for example, when you have a microservice, it's trying to capture data from another microservice. That's just an example, but basically what I'm saying is when there's dependent microservices that need to communicate with another microservice to get something from that.
Yes.
Mhm.
I think more is that I think it's more that you can get the microservice to work globally. All of them talk together, everything is working together. It's just plugging it all in and making it work in an OpenShift and making sure that each pod is talking to each other. I think is more
Yep.
of it's more of the gist of the
Yeah.
crux.
Which again, that'll be next week. We're going to start digging into that stuff,
Mhm.
getting the containers on, seeing how we can get multiple services working together. What I personally would love to do is be able to create so that news API that we built up, make that a separate application so that we just see that process of, hey, I'm putting in a request. The request actually goes to Geeky Lights, but then Geeky Lights goes to this other server that then goes to news API. So you see that chain, but we'll see what we actually end up doing for microservices.
Personally, I think the OpenShift thing is just to get all the pods connected together. Is just connecting getting the OpenShift backend part, or the part where you get the variables all just talking to each other, just making sure they all match, and then making sure the routes and whatever needs to be done, just making sure they all match so they all go together. Just like connecting the pod to the SQL server, to the SQL pod. You're just getting all your ducks in a row to make sure that they're talking to each other. And I think that's all it needs to be done, but I don't know how much effort it needs to do it though.
Didn't need much. It's mostly just, yeah, as long as using environment variables, that makes the system a lot easier. So
Yeah.
Which again, we will talk about as we get to that for OpenShift next week.
Yeah, that was something I was trying to look into too, like how I would, for example, even get them connected via an API gateway on OpenShift.
Well, yeah, I don't know if I want to see if we can cover that, adding a discovery server to our OpenShift system so that the gateway will communicate with that. So we can actually talk about what a gateway is, see that as another application. So that's probably what I would end up doing though, is just putting in a gateway in between the front end and the Geeky Lights API. So that's personally what I'm thinking we would probably do, just to see how that works. So that there, again, there's this intermediary. We'll see again how deep into the microservice architecture we get into based on the time allotment that we have. That might be something, again, for those who finish their project, that might be an extra item for those of you who can finish their project, not really finish, because again, it's not ever going to be done, but get a strong, robust application going where they were like, okay, I need to make this cooler because it already looks good as it is. And it's like, you know what, I think you could actually handle something a little more difficult because we can make this more powerful and better looking for the end for your resume. Let's pull this application apart before it gets too large, and let's pull it into separate pieces. So that's something we can look into for those. And that's something why, again, it's good that I get to hear how you guys are working on your projects and how you're progressing through your projects. So I can decide, hey, I think you can handle maybe turning this into a microservice application. It's big enough and you're working on this well enough that I think it's something we can approach and try out, because yeah, that's gonna be a massive impact any company you go to. If you can do a microservice setup and think for your project, you will be an impressive little item during the interview. They'll be like, this person, they know some stuff. So, because that is the modern way of doing applications more nowadays, is microservice. It's not needed for you guys to get a job, but it can definitely tip the scales in your favor if you've at least dabbled in it. So again, we'll see if we have time to talk about that and get into it. the main focus of me is just, can we get an application hosted on OpenShift, and can you understand the basic constructs of OpenShift? So, sound good?
Yep.
All right. All right, so again, what we're doing today and what we're gonna be doing this week. And so I'm gonna give you guys two options for this, what we wanna actually do. So option one, we go into our system and we enable ourselves to be able to post geek outs. So we can post geek outs, we can look at the geek outs, click on one, and then maybe like them. An alternative item we could do that we could help, again, go back to some of the Spring Boots for some of you guys, we get another Spring Boot refresher instead of just React, is we can add in a friendship system potentially. Do I actually want to do that? Hold on. Try to think of how complicated that was again. Trying to remember, I did a friendship system in an old app, and I did not actually enjoy making that.
Developers don't have friends, they have coworkers.
What's that? Oh, I
Said
love the
developers
joke,
don't
but
have friends, they have coworkers.
yeah, I heard that. That was a good one. What was Evan? What did you say, Evan?
Was that for Dev Connect or Dev Connector?
Yeah,
Yeah, I heard that wasn't an easy system to build either.
no.
But you're building a social media network, you pretty much want that.
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to remember how we do it. Because so the main problem with friendship systems is the idea of, is it one-sided friendships? Whereas as soon as, let's say, Matt marks a friend on Evan, they're friends. Or is it a thing where Matt requests a friendship from Evan and Evan says, yes, we are friends, and now they're friends? We could also
Twitter
just
system
do-
versus a Facebook system.
Exactly. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, and Twitter, it's a follower system. And so maybe that would be easier on my behalf. That would definitely be easier to build, is a follower system. Yeah, user friend relationship. Yeah. Okay, because there's the idea of like both users approve that they're agree that they're friends. So agree that mutually doesn't, relationship, related user type, friend block, etc. Yeah. So yeah, there is a relationship to system of like the user relationship, the related user, and then the type, friend block, etc. So that is another variation we can do. Let's see. And that way, yeah, you can do, so one thing you can do, of course, in the user relationship system. So we'll at least look at what a friendship / follower system would look like. So, and we can even kind of whiteboard it, see how you guys come up with it. And so this would be actually a great idea of kind of doing more. So maybe today we'll do design structure. And then you can decide if you actually want to implement this or not, or we can just go through the geek out system tomorrow and Thursday. So you guys will decide today. And this will be a brainstorm day. So again, you can see and hopefully use this in your projects. How do we come up with a feature? So we're deciding, do we want to add a friendship system or a relationship feature? And so if we think about how that looks in our application, someone will click on a user in the list of users. And then that will go towards a screen of that user. And there'll be a little friendship. That's supposed to be a person, but whatever. God damn, I'm not good at drawing.
That's a pretty convincing thumb, though.
Thank you. Good.
That kind of looked like a middle finger.
Oh God. I'm on a roll. We'll just say add. There we go. We'll just do that. No icons. I can't draw shoulders apparently. So you got an add friend button that they can then click on. And so that means that this person is saying I'm connected, or I want to connect with this person. So if we think about it, we have we'll do profile, because we definitely want the users to do this, but profile is so what kind of relationship is this? And this is actually part of the reason why I also thought about maybe doing this, because it's going to be a very interesting one. How's the relationship with this? So we know our database, the entities we have in our Geeky-like system is we have profile, or sorry, developer. Let me do this accurately, sorry. We have user. We have profile. We know we have roles over here, which is a many-to-many. We have profiles. Oh no, why did I do profiles again? God dang it. developers, which is a one-to-one. We had our geek outs, which is a one-to-many.
One to many.
Yeah, thank you. Optional. We have our likes system, which is a one-to-many, again, optional. Optional. And again, one-to-many, optional, optional. We had our languages, which was the many-to-many, also optional. And then what else do we have? We have the avatar, right? Which is not really needed, as our one-to-one, which we no longer really need because we have our user to developers as our one-to-one now. This one is a one-to-one optional, not optional on this side, but required for the avatar. So avatar must be connected to a developer. And then anything else we had? With the models, what models we had? We had that's our likes. There's avatar, developer, geek out, and language. So those are all of our models that we had in our system. So this is our layout. So think of this, we need to add this friendship model system. And so what is the relationship for that with our existing systems? A developer can have many friends, right? And a friend can have many other friends, right?
It's optional. Developer could have no friends.
It's true. That's why I said can. I didn't say they have many friends. I said
have friends.
I didn't say they have friends. I said they can have many friends. I didn't say they have many friends.
Are we doing the old commercial? One friend told one friend, and so on and so on and so on and so on.
Yeah, but that's why I very clearly said developers can have friends. I didn't say they have friends. So
They're a 0 to 1 relationship.
what's that? A 0 to 1. There you go. But when I say that a developer is friends with someone, what is the data of that of the friend? What is the data of the friend?
Well, it's gonna be like many to many because one developer can have many friends.
And that friend can be friends with other people,
Other
right?
people, yeah.
Mm.
But if it's a female, then I'll only be one-to-one with them. But you know what?
You're only allowed one female friend. Is that it, Jim?
Well, I'm a monogamous person. I don't like cheating on my girlfriends. Or
I don't think having a female friend is considered cheating, but that might be in your situation. Maybe it is.
This isn't a dating website. This is a.
Hey,
Well,
you
I
know
don't
what?
know.
Variety
If
is
you
the
like.
spice of life.
If I
It could
find
be.
one developer, it's a female that's cute, and I get her.
Some days you want steak, some days you want chicken.
There you go. That's true.
Huh?
Reminder, we are recording this, so be careful if you do have a significant other. This might fall into their lap.
Geeky date,
Oh, well,
geeky
bye.
dates. Geeky dates. That might be a fun system to develop.
There you go.
It would be many to many because it'd be many.
But again, many to what? What am I putting here? Like again, what the data of the friends? So Jim, you're now friends with David, and how are we connecting that? Where's David's data being stored? Where's your data stored?
So it would have
Hopefully somewhere
well, that's a
secure.
good idea. Well, that would have to be stored to another table because
Does-
we're referencing other developers in the same table.
It's a self-referential. So here's the funny thing about it. This is what I was trying to get to. It's a
Yeah.
many-to-many between developers to developers.
Right. Yes.
It is this.
Oh, geez.
That looks.
This is
gnarly.
this is the developer system. It's a many-to-many, which we know has a table in the middle. This would be called a developer table, but this is gonna be named very much like our like system. Instead of doing that, we'll do a complex many-to-many by doing relationship. Which now I have to wonder if I should look that up and see if that's a SQL word. I don't think it is, but. And so this will be there we go.
Just don't use condition.
There you
Could
go.
rip off LinkedIn and do like a connection
Could do connection, yeah.
sort of. table.
But yeah, we have a relationship table. And so this is gonna be a many-to-many, which then we have the originator ID. This is the developer that triggered the friendship. And
The
then the
thirsty person.
recipient. That's gonna be a fun video. And the recipient ID. But that's not enough, right? Especially if this was a follower system, this could be enough, right? This is all we need. We just need to know who that originator is following recipient. And we could call this follower, followee, technically. But in a mutual system, we want to know what type of friendship this is. So we could add something called type or status. In the beginning, we can call this, and this is where we can also put a block if we need to. So we could block that. We could say, nope, these two people cannot see each other. They're blocked. Originator can't recipient, and recipient can't see originator. Two direction on that. We could do a pending, where the originator has started it, but it hasn't been approved by recipient yet. And that's what this shows. Originator created it, recipient hasn't approved. But if recipient tries to create a friendship at the same time, let's say a race condition, if we can always look when a recipient, when someone tries to initiate a friendship, we can say, oh, hey, does this exist already? Does this relationship exist already? And if it does, turn it from pending to agreed, right? And then of course we can then put down here, last but not least, friend, and say that they're actually connected. And technically, if we wanted to go deeper and even put this into Facebook territories, we could always put those things like it's complicated and stupid stuff like that. I got Nick. Nick's like, I got the means for that.
I like where this is going.
There you go. So we could add those other types there as well.
That's just interesting because I see the type as already being an enum.
Could be, yeah. Yep. 100%. We could do that. Yep. So yeah, this could be our friendship system where we do this. Then we can just do the simple follower system if we want to make it a little easier on ourselves. But we could do this as well and create the system if you guys want. So are you guys interested in doing this?
Could we start with the follower and then ultimately, if we want to do friendship, just scale it out to friendship? Like what does one sort of precede the other?
I would think so. Yeah, I think it would be easier to create the follower first and then grow it into the mutual friendship system later.
Or if it doesn't
Definitely.
work, we'll just say, oh, it's just follower. I don't feel like making it friendship, too much work.
Downgrade it. It's like, okay, this isn't working. We're going to downgrade.
I second that approach. I like this approach.
I mean,
Yeah, I
to
like
me,
that approach.
to me, the type, all it looks like is the roles. If it's blocked, don't do it. If it's friends, allow, and if it's
So
pending.
yeah, what we can do is we can.
It looks like an enum switch statement that will take care of this whole thing.
Again, we don't need to do an enum, but we can. We can definitely do that. I'll let the class decide if they want to see another enum kind of setup and stuff like that. But that might create another entity for containing the enum. So that's up to you guys if you want to do that or not. That means
But
we'd have
even
to
if you don't
also.
use the enum, it just looks like a switch statement and just like accept or deny or do whatever from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if you don't decide to use that.
Yeah, we could use it. We don't need to. We can also just, again, in the relationship class, just put a collection or an enum in there, a collection in there that has the stats that we allow. Yeah, so we can do that as well. Yeah, we can do that. What I say, yeah, let's attempt to build out the mutual system. And if we see that it's getting too dizzying or confusing, we can roll it back to the follower system. That sound good?
Sure.
Cool. So do we want to, so I think this might be a nice item to build because it's very good for social media. And I think you guys would benefit from seeing this self-referential system of the developers connecting with other developers. So I think that'll be good to see. Sound good? Cool.
Good.
So let's build that. And I think that's what we'll do. So we're at 7:51. Let's do a 5-minute break for bathroom breaks and drinks. And then we'll actually do some code. Sound good?
Yep.
All right. Let me stop, let me pause. So don't forget. All right. Share that. All right. So let's head over here. All right. So what we're going to do quick is we're going to create a relationship model. So let's start with that first. Class. Again, small r on the package, large R on the actual class. Oh, no, that was the class. I didn't do a model. I didn't do a package. Oops. Hold on. Reset. Wait. Okay. I didn't hit package. You package first. Yep. Class. I'm also going to do is I'm going to clean up some of the stuff. So I'm going to have that. So I'm going to close that off. Let's close a bunch of these. I'm going to clean up a bunch. A lot of things open right now.
Where are we putting this? What's going on here?
Just creating the relationship class. I haven't added anything to it yet. I just want to clean up some of these tabs.
No, but this is, oh, in models?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Relationship
okay.
model. Yeah, the relationship model.
Sorry.
Yep.
Nope. I called mine entities, so that's okay. I just,
Gotcha. No worries.
yeah.
So we're going to look at it side by side so we can make sure we have everything we need. Yep. Again, this is an entity, but it is a model. So it is it's under the model package, but it's a entity. You're only right as an entity.
Yeah. I just named it different from yours, but that's okay. That's good.
Yeah, it's got a relationship. And again, just like everything, we have an ID. Every single thing has to have a primary key, and so this is going to be the ID. We'll go ahead and do at generated value, strategy, generation type, identity. Okay. Using R long for that. It's going to be a lot of items. And how this connects again, we're going to create very similar to our approved system. So I'm actually going to open up the approved model so you can take a look at how that looks. So you remember how that works. It's very similar to this. And so how we connect it, we do a many to one. Each row is going to connect to a single element. So each relationship has a single originator and a single recipient. Again, each originator can have multiple friendships, but the idea is that each friendship refers to a single originator and a single recipient. So this is a at 1. We'll do the fetch type again as we've been doing, and I didn't import that, so there we go. Our fetch type to lazy. The join column. And again, I'm going to be, and so in this case, we're going to do it slightly different. I'm going to do this originator ID. Reference the column name is ID. And we should do that. And then, because this isn't giving us the table name here, we may need to bring the table name by doing this table as we may need that. So I'm gonna put that in for now.
Can you import those in?
What's that?
Can you import does the many to one import in?
Yeah, I had to bring it in. It brought it in. It's yelling at me right now because I haven't actually given it an item yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's why I'm getting those errors too, because
Yep.
it says can't do that. I'm like, what? Just
We
fine.
also do the JSON include properties because we only want the ID. We don't need anything else. If we ever decide to pull this information, we just want the ID. We don't want any other fields. And this is just private developer originator. And I didn't import developer. Dang it. There we go. And now I should be happy. See? Let's do the same thing. We're going to do another one. Again, this is the this is the middle of the many to many. This is the connecting items. We need another join column to the other side of the relationship, which again, though, is going back to developer again. It's from developer to developer. So many to one. We'll bring in the fetch type again. I don't remember the cascade type, but we put that on through, so we don't go worry about that right now. We'll see if we need it later. But I don't think we do. I believe there was a reason for it, and I just started to remember the video. I feel like I left it there for a reason, but now I don't remember why. Name. This is the name of the column in this table, because again, it always puts the one on the table in this table, not on the other side. This is going to be the recipient ID. Reference column name is again ID. And the table again is going to be again developer. And same thing, JSON, include properties. We only want the ID. And so for, like I said, Core 14, who's not familiar with this, what this one does is that we only want the ID included when we send this to the front end. If we do request it with a GET request, this entity, we only want to see the ID of this developer. We don't want to see all the other fields that it has.
Maybe a semicolon at the end of the @join column line.
Nope. Oh, I didn't need that. Yep, right. Thank you. My semicolon habit is actually growing. I'm putting semicolons where they don't actually belong more now. So fun on that. Developer recipient. Right. And then the last thing I'm going to bring in is the private actually, do we want the enum? So one thing I can clarify here is yes, in our current system, our enums are part of the database. They don't actually have to be there for this to work. We don't actually have to have a database enum. We can just do a application enum. Do we want an enum for the type? What do you guys think?
Well,
It's still just not, I'm perfectly fine just doing a string of type. We could keep it simple and easy to follow.
well, the interesting thing is that, well, then I have to ask you this question then.
Mhm.
So I mean, the way this is working now, I don't care if it's the enum, I don't care if it's just a variable, I don't care, but if it's written to the database, well, if I'm pending as, say, as a friend, right? If I ask you to be a friend, but I don't answer that until like 3 weeks later.
It's pending the
That
entire
should go
time.
into a database because it would be lost eventually in the application as being run, or that would stay
No.
permanent.
It's a permanent thing. So once you put a request friendship on Facebook, that thing will sit there for months. I technically think I have some, if I was to look at my Facebook, I think I still have a friend request from my ex's mother, and I just ignored it. And it's still sitting there, I think.
But it's yeah, because Facebook servers are continuing to run it. But if I shut down Facebook server, that may go away, right?
No, because it's in the database.
Database.
If you don't have this, yes. But no, it will be, this is into the database. It would be written as pending. And so as soon as you reboot the system, it should be still there because it's still pending in the database.
It's still in the data. Yeah, it's written to the database.
Yeah, so it's there.
Okay.
So by having this here, it'll be there permanently.
Okay.
And
But
again,
I'm saying if it's
part of the
just
reason
a
we want to
floating
do,
variable, I'm saying it's just a floating variable in the system, just waiting. It's just keeping it there until it changes over, then write it to the database because it's just waiting.
hold
for
on.
the next step. What?
Not quite again. Okay, so hold on. An enum, just remember to make sure, yes, enum may just be floating in the system, but the enums themselves is just, it's again, it's a one-to-one parallel with a number to a string.
No. I wasn't referring to an enum. I was just
Okay.
referring this thing to be, even if it's just, it doesn't have to be a variable. It could be just a variable. It doesn't have to be an enum. It could just be a variable floating in the application. It doesn't have to be an enum. It's just something just saying that this is just the status of what it is, like your type. It's just the variable of type.
The way I
Right.
think of that is just if then statements. If this condition is, if this field is this, do the following until this happens, and then that would clear away. So that would be a persisting notification so long as it's not accepted, because it's just checking for that one instance of did they accept it, yes or no.
Yep, and again,
Right.
enums are easier to search. That's all I'm saying. That's the only thing behind an enum. Enum is no different than a string overall for us as developers, but in the engine of the system, it is easier on the processor because it's easier to compare equality between to enums than it is to compare against two strings. We have to do string dot equals another string. So that's the benefit of the enum, is that the under the hood, the equality operator is able to run easier, if that makes sense. That's the benefit we're getting out of this, is that concept here. We're getting that out of it. That's
Right,
the
'cause-
benefit we're pulling from the enum.
The system
Or-
length number is better versus having to feed through an entire string, and that's less time that the machine and the network has to run.
Mhm. So that,
But my question was more towards the life cycle of this particular variable. Whether to write it to the database immediately, because I could answer this 5 years from now, and this variable might be changed over numerous of times, or changed to a point where I don't have a record of what I just asked you as a friend 5 years ago. But I'm just asking
no, it's still persistent. Hold on. It's, I think there's a base foundation item that I'm missing here. And that's what I think is the problem. So again, this is just a data type. And again, it's part of the entity. It's in the database. Nothing's floating. Be very, very understanding about that. The enum,
but more,
and
I
again,
was asking
hold on,
more,
Jim.
should that be more floating? Could that be a floater than being permanently in a database?
Not at all.
Okay,
Because
That's
if
more
it
my
wasn't
question.
floating, once it's approved, even once it's approved, at any point, if it's a floating variable, at any point, as soon as the database is reset, it's gone.
no,
The
no, well,
status of that friendship is gone, period.
no, well, I'm saying that it goes from pending as being a floater, and then when it's approved, it goes to the database being, okay, it's approved, it's locked in, you're good to go. Instead of throwing it pending in there into the database, I'm just saying.
No, because even then,
That's what my question, that's what my thought was. is-
yeah, I still wouldn't do that, because then again, floating variables, do you know where those are stored in the system?
Well, but no, if it's.
No, hold on. The question, answer the question. Where is floating variable stored on the machine?
Stored in memory,
Right, on RAM.
In
We are
RAM.
very limited in RAM.
right?
So you definitely don't want, and just again, think about, like I said, I would mention one person that I have pending in my Facebook friend requests.
Mhm.
And I check Facebook probably once a month, if lucky, maybe twice, if I'm feeling generous to Facebook. And here's my one time for this month, and I won't check it again. So I'm logging in right now just to pull it up quick. And if I look really quick, if it'll actually load, come on, Facebook, don't be chuggy, actually do stuff. Let's see. Did I actually clean up my pending requests? Why, what are you doing, Facebook? Why are you, do you try to, it's acting like you're showing up a pop-up, but then it doesn't actually show. Oh, I don't have any suggestions anymore. I must have cleaned them out recently.
So it's better to
Cool.
store like it's better to store the status as on the database as much as possible.
Yes,
Or it is where it's supposed to, or what?
because yes, I can tell you at one time, I probably had 10 or 20 pending requests in my Facebook account, and I'm one person. And so imagine all the people on Facebook that just don't answer friend requests right away and probably do them once a month or once a month they go in and go through their friend requests. Especially popular people or like celebrities or business moguls or people that are getting a lot of requests, influencers, they probably do once a week, they'll go in to approve them. So that entire week they have all these floaters. And they would also be very upset if during that week, suddenly these pending requests just disappeared.
Right.
So be aware of that. That would be my recommendation there. I could understand maybe you could put a expiration date on this if you wanted to say, hey, after a certain amount of time, the pending goes away because they didn't respond. So that way the person could try again and send a new notification to them. So that is a feature you can ask, but that's not what we're doing. But yeah, very rarely do you ever want floating data in your application, because if you think about an application that hits 1 million people a day, that's a lot of RAM now you're taking up with just temporary data.
Well, I know, but you know, like Facebook, Google,
No,
they
but-
have unlimited RAM, unlimited.
No, they don't. No, they don't.
unlimited
Because hold on, Jim. No. I'm not letting you get away with that. That would be a bad thing to say during an interview for one. They do not have
everything.
unlimited.
Well, no, but
Hold on,
they have more
Jim.
than I do.
Jim. I'm
They have more
talking.
than I do.
Jim, please stop. It costs them money. They do
Yeah.
not have unlimited. Very, very simple. I get this. Maybe you're trying to make a joke on it, but that's, you gotta be very careful on those kind of statements. That can come off as kind of mean, especially because if you're working for a company or applying for a company that is fairly big, They don't want you, if they think that you're thinking that they have unlimited RAM, that's a bad approach for you to have for a company. Especially if you're even applying for one of those companies. If you think, oh, you guys have unlimited RAM. No, they don't. they have to pay
No,
for
but-
every single byte. Every
Yeah,
single
but I know
byte.
that they have more than
So
I do that I can
they
spare.
want, no, again, they want you to be very, Google and Facebook are more focused on zero, on your algorithms being log of zero, space complexity of zero and time complexity of 0 or 1. So 1, not 0, 1. So they want you to get as close to those as anybody else. And yes, they definitely have the money to afford more memory than anybody else, but they are more, they care more about your solutions hitting as close to time and space complexity of 0 than any other company. The smaller companies will be more willing to accept you as having a complex solution. Nick, go for it.
So, excuse me, what, this is being recorded, so I'm showing a big blind spot. What's the time complexity for searching in a numerator?
I believe it's 1 because
So
it's
then-
numbers.
But as opposed to a string?
It depends on the length of the string. It's an O of N because
Yeah.
the length of the string, it has to check each character. Is character 1 equal to character 1? 0, sorry. That was a bad move. Is character 0 equal to character 0? Character 1 equal to character 1? Is character 2 equal to character 2? And I have to go through that whole string before I know, or at least I have to go to the end of the smallest string. So it's O of the smallest end. And that's the distance.
Unless we keep our statuses, we can probably keep them pretty, or our types pretty short in an enumerator.
Mhm.
We can use the benefit of having that key lookup, that instant key lookup.
Mhm. Yes,
So,
exactly. And
I'm
again,
thinking
numbers are a single
that was
byte.
good.
That's really what
Yeah.
it is. It's a number is a single byte. So to compare one number against another, I just compare the bits. And so it's a bit comparison instead of byte comparison. That's the difference. And that's where you get that benefit. So again, it's beneficial for the computer, not necessarily beneficial for us as developers to use string as a human. We're not going to see the benefit using a numerator for versus a type. We might see a little more complexity because we have to use an enum and we have to type a little more. But the under the hood is going to see a major benefit for that. So yes, if you were going for Google or Facebook, use the enum 100%. For a smaller company, you can get away with just using string because there's a good chance they might not realize the benefits of enum. But Google will care, Facebook would care, LinkedIn would care. Because yeah, they're trying to save every single bit that they can.
Does Geeky Likes care?
I'm not paying for this, so no. I'm not hosting this anywhere and I'm not spending any money on this application. I don't care. Not. As long as you guys are aware of it and are appreciative of it and understand the benefits. That's what I care about.
I don't agree with that statement as part of this geeky like startup. We should strive to be excellent.
Got it, David. Well, why the hell do we call our company Geeky Likes? No, I'm good. So yeah, what do you guys want to do? Enum or string?
Personally,
Yeah,
I'd like to do enum so we can play more with it. Just
Let's
get
do it
more
then.
exposure to it.
Cool.
That's
All
just
right. Anybody disagree
No.
with that? All right. Let's do an enum. So in relationship, we'll just do a new Java class E relationship
I've been in plenty of those.
enum, an E relationship. There you go. Enum. And again, if we just look at how we did the enum in auth, we can see we just put the items in. Again, all caps is the common system. So we'll just do caps lock and do what are the status types of our relationships, as we said before.
Pending? Was pending one of them?
We had pending. Yep, that was one we can do. So pending. What else we have?
Block.
Blocked and accepted.
We do blocked or block? Which one are we gonna do?
Blocked is the status of the relationship.
All right, I like it.
I think that would work.
Works for me. Blocked, and then what did the last one want to say?
Accepted?
Accepted, friendship, whatever we want to do. Yeah, accepted. And also, we can also do none as a soft deletion. So this would be a friendship that has been soft deleted, where if one of the friendships decided to end the friendship, we can at least know that at one point they were connected, and instead of deleting the row, we can keep that they were at one point they were a friendship, that this relationship did exist at one point. Does that make sense? So we could put none if we want to do that. Of course, we could just delete the row, but it's a safe item to add a none, just to have it. Sound good? This is also something we could use if we get a denied. We don't want to block. We may not want to tell the other. We don't want to tell the person that their friendship has been denied. We don't want them to create a new friendship, and we no longer show the notification to the other person. So that is something you can do as well. It shows as unaccepted to the originator, but we're no longer bugging the recipient to approve it or not. And the recipient and the originator can no longer send another one. And that's a system you can do for ensuring that while you don't need a block, they're like, yeah, this person, I just don't want to befriend them with instead of enabling this concept of bugging. So it's again, not needed, but something you can do. Nick, go ahead.
So we're not using like, I'm just talking through it, but we're not using sort of a default placeholder relationship status because this entity wouldn't exist and have this kind of relationship unless it was created, originated. Right. So so we don't have a default. All right.
Nope.
Makes sense.
And Nick and John, you're in my application together. There's no relationship between you two until one of you click the add friend button on one of your profiles. So until John clicks on your add friend item, there's no relationship. Once John clicks it, we now have a pending one. So, or if John decides he doesn't like you because of your hat, he can hit block right away, and then we have a relationship.
Right.
Sorry.
Because I'm thinking of having a default value, but it doesn't matter because once the relationship entity is created, then
these two I would say are the default items by default, pending or blocked. This will be the initial value of one of depending on how they interact. If you do put in a system that other sites are doing, like a proof of knowing this person by like putting their phone number in or something like that, then we could create an auto accepted system by saying, hey, if someone knows my phone number, they can friend me right away. You don't need me to then click the approve. Some systems do provide those things where, hey, if you know a bit of personal information that is not public on their profile, enter that, and then you can skip the pending phase kind of thing. Some sites do that, which is a cool little feature that I've seen. I don't remember where I saw that, but I saw it somewhere saying, hey, confirm that this person's actually your friend. And I was like, oh, okay, I know this person's phone number, and we were connected right away. So it didn't have a pending system or anything like that. So I've seen that. So yeah, and that's what's cool about these friendship relationship models. You can really have fun with them and build them out. So I'm personally feeling like we'll never use this. This is there just in case I need it, is my kind of way of looking at it. All right, so we have our enum. And so instead of doing string, let's look at how we did our roles again. So here we got enumerated e-role name. So here we're gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna do @enumerated now. Enum type string. That's locked. No, okay, good. And then we're gonna do private e relationship type. All right. Cool. And that's our system there. So now what I'm going to do is just build our constructors and setters and getters. So generate constructor, first the none. We're then going to create our
question.
Go to.
So
go ahead.
As I'm looking through this, I'm thinking aspects of my own project. And so the condition field, which we've left and talked about a lot, would that be applicable here for saying, hey, I want a default set of conditions instead of having to insert a type every time? So like new, used, damaged, repaired, something along those lines. Would that be applicable for use of enums?
One more time. Make sure I understand the question.
Sure.
Sorry.
So it's all right.
Yeah.
I'm for that particular aspect of what I'm wanting to assign to items as far as conditions. So they could be brand new, they could be used, they could be damaged, those kinds of tags. Would an enum be an appropriate thing to apply for a field like that?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. If you don't want people putting in a custom status or a custom condition, enums are great because they're you can just pull it down for the drop-down menu, and then you can just quickly grab and search for those items. And again, it will improve your SQL performance and it'll improve your algorithm performance on your routes. So enums are great for items that, yes, if you're going to have them as just set values where the person isn't typing what they want. If they want to do, later on, if you want to do like a condition description where they can type out a more detailed description of the status they put in, go for it. But yeah, for that drop down where they're just selecting, new, used, slightly, blah, 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 that should be that's great as an enum.
Gotcha. I'll experiment with that more. Thank you.
Oh, great question. Good stuff. All right, we have that. Cool. Relationship, Yeah, and then I've got the other constructor. So then I did the get one constructor and the getters and setters. So one more generate constructor, and then this is everything but the ID. And again, with the constructor here, leave out collections. We have no collections here. These are all individual items. So all three go in. All right. Look good. So now what we won't do that today. What I want to do for tomorrow is actually see if I can bring in and make sure I found this right, because I looked it up a while ago when we were doing in the relationships and we looked into the language system. I'm sorry, the like system. I wanted to make sure, can I do on developer here? So I'll add it to do just so you guys can see it. And I want to look and see if I can find my notes on it. I hope I kept it. What I want to do here is a friends list or relationship list. On a list of all the relationships that are available, whether they're approved or not, I don't care. What I want though is just be able to get an ID of the people that they at least have a relationship open with, so that I can add relationship button, I can showcase it or not, if I want to show that add button or not. I could definitely bring in more details if I need to, but in the beginning I don't. And so if I remember correctly, how this works is I use the mapped by. So I should be able to do a private developer friends, and then here would be like a at many to many mapped by the relationship model. I got to make sure, I want to double check the notes. I did this again, I think I did this last month, so it's not fresh in my brain right now. So I'm gonna go see if it's still in my notes from a while back. I'm gonna look it up again. We'll probably, if I can find it, we'll do this tomorrow. We'll add this little detail tomorrow on this, but so we'll keep doing with what we have today, finish up this system as we have it with the controller. But my goal is to add this here. I remember, I feel like I did this in one of my notes, and I was like, I could show it, but it's not needed for our application, so I didn't care about it then. But I do want to show this so that you can definitely do, because this is a really useful item to be able to pull and bring down on the profile potentially. So, yeah. So it's good. Yeah. All right. So you got that. And then, yeah, and again, what we'll probably be doing later on is updating our payload system to load less data. What I do want to do really quick though, is I want to add one quick thing to our developer model, because our developer model is very, very simple. How did I want to do that actually? I want to add just a bio about me kind of thing. That's fine. We don't need it. We don't need it. It's fine. Never mind. That's gonna be a pain to add, because we have to update our form in our website. I don't want to do that. So we don't need it. It's fine. Our forms are very basic, but it's fine. Got that. Good. Yeah, so we have those. Let's go ahead and with this actually, yeah, let's create the repository for it. So repositories. Class interface relationship repository extends JPA repository. This is going to be again the first thing we put in is the item. So this is going to be the relationship, comma, and then the ID data type. So long. And that is it for now. We'll probably update this a little bit later, because we'll probably want to, I am going to put two models. I have two functions actually. So I want to do list relationship. Forgot to import list. We can do stat, but find all by originator ID. Did you put an underscore there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I just remembered that. I was like, wait a minute. But that looks wrong. And then same thing, list relationship, find all by recipient. And then one more, which I gotta double check the syntax for. We want is one more list. Relationship, and I'll double check my notes for this tomorrow. So I don't have that on top, so I wasn't planning on this. Double check. Thank you. Find all by originator ID or recipient. I believe that's it, but I'm going to double check the code in a second later on, and then I'll cover this tomorrow. The ID will actually be the exact, so we'll actually send the same number to both of these. So the idea is just to find any relationship where they are either the originator or the recipient. So this ID, two IDs here will be the same ID. So this one and this one. I want to double check how the OR works on this. Double check on that. So I'm going to confirm that for you guys. But I do believe this is how it's done. I just want to confirm before I uncomment it and actually tempt it. But I do believe this is how it would work. Originator. Yeah, that should be right, right? Did I spell that right?
Missing an A.
Ah, yep, you're right. Thank you. That. A, originator. Thank you. There we go. So it was right. All right. So like I said, I'll double check my notes for this item, double check the notes on how to do the OR operator in the function, because we do want this because, yeah, when we're trying to pull whether or not we want to showcase whether or not this relationship exists or not, we want to be able to show that. Yeah. So we want, this would be beneficial. We don't necessarily, if I think about it, we probably don't necessarily need this. Right now, let's think about how the site would show. So we have find by the originator. So when, let's say, Travis already sent the request to Manny, Travis goes back to Manny's page, we can use this to see, oh, I do want this one actually, hold on. Oh, not that. Relationship, a single one. Find by ID and ID or ID. There we go. So for this thing, I would actually probably use this one actually for the example I was giving. I would use this one to then say, oh, is there already a pending relationship between, or an existing relationship? Is there an existing relationship between Travis and Manny? I then pull it and say, yep, there's a pending one. So I can either decide to not show the add friendship item at all or show a pending. Or even show friends if it marked as friends. So I could then show that relationship status on that profile when Travis clicks on Manny's profile to go back to it after he already sent in the request. So that's what I can use this one for. If I'm with this one, I can then see, hey, let's pull all the IDs for that Travis has sent for relationship requests out for. So that I can then create the, if I want, I can even pull by status too. So originator ID and status, or recipient ID and status. This one I would do for probably pull by recipient ID, and probably would add in here and type, where I can then do pending, pull all pending relationships. Then I can create that, hey, here's all your pending relationships, right? That makes sense of another item we might want. So think about all the data we might want to see. So with a friendship system, we have knowing whether or not the relationship already exists or not. That's what this one does. And so this one actually, if you think about it, is it guaranteed that I'm going to find something here? Is it guaranteed this will find something?
No.
I think someone already said it. Yeah, no, right?
Yeah.
So is it safe to say this is going to return a relationship, or what should it return probably?
Shouldn't that be an optional?
Does that sound right to people? Does that make sense? Optional here, because it's not guaranteed to find a relationship. Same thing when we do find by ID, we're not guaranteed to find something. So yeah, that actually makes more sense. Optional. But it's also good to talk these through, because then you realize, oh, right, we probably should have, that probably isn't a given. So optional relationship, find by originator ID and recipient ID. Lists, of course, we're okay getting an empty array, so that doesn't have to be optional. An empty list is fine. That is valid data.
But the empty entity would be just a null or would error out, right?
This thing, yes, we would get back null or error out. Yeah, I actually don't know what it would do if it's not an optional, but
Right.
yeah, we would definitely, so this would find all the recipient relationships. But is there any time where I want to find every single relationship I have, regardless of the status? Is there any reason for the front end to show every single relationship that I have, regardless of the status?
Well, yes, because you would want to know that, but then you could also filter it by what you would want to know, wouldn't you?
Right, but then couldn't I do that by doing find all by recipient ID and type?
So I guess I don't really understand the question that you're trying to ask, because you're saying find all, but I guess if I was trying to look at all the friends you have, then yes.
Regardless of the type. And again, that could be pending, blocked, and friend, and accepted. So is there ever a situation where I want to pull a list of every single relationship, regardless of the type, meaning that it's whether it's pending, approved, or blocked?
In your profile, maybe.
Including what? Yeah, I guess you could argue that one.
Other than that, no, because when I'm looking at your profile from someone who's not you, no, we don't need to see who you blocked or who you have pending.
Yeah.
No, but those would be separate. I think that the user themselves would be the only ones who would see that. So you could see, I blocked this person. Let me go unblock them. Let me see who I'm currently friends with, and do I have any pending?
Yeah.
Might want to see that.
True. So there you go. So this is the thing you get to think about. What of these do I need? And one thing, by the way, again, I will clarify, we don't need to add all these right away. We can add them as we need them. So do be aware that if you think of any that you know you're probably going to need, you can go ahead and add them early if you want, but you're under no obligation to add them immediately. So do be aware of that. You're under no obligation to actually add them right away. You can add them as you realize, oh, I need this. So definitely be aware of that. That is a safe item. I will say a lot of times when you see stuff like this, right here, where you have a single word and a underscored one, the single one probably usually goes first just because it looks nicer. And that way the underscore is at the end. But it's not a big deal. Yeah, we'll keep these here for now. We'll decide if we need them or not. We'll maybe we might use them and remove them. What's that?
Hey, Cliff, I just want to remind you that when you record, it's, the pictures of us are over that right side.
Stupid thing. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Good catch, David. Thanks for that.
Yeah, I always forget that.
Only reason why I know is because I'm still trying to catch up on a certain amount of videos and you still do it on the right side.
You're right.
Is there a way you can change the view where it's not just sitting over what you're recording?
I don't know if I can.
Without, like, just turn on.
There's a recording setting, I think, that makes your squares disappear from view.
That'd be amazing if I could find that. I'm gonna go check on Zoom settings after I end the meeting.
I know you could do full screen, and then when you get to full screen, the view, and then you have a little block of view, and if I just do that, I can shrink it up and just have no video.
This is for the recording later on YouTube. You guys can't change the layout once it's already a video. What I think Travis tried to say is that there might be a recording settings on Zoom settings to not record the cameras on the side here. And I'm going to see if I can do that because I don't need that. You guys don't need to see yourselves while I'm doing this. We want to see what's on the screen. We don't need to see yourselves. So I'm going to look and see if I can disable the recording of the videos. I don't see any settings here while I'm recording. So I will try to do that after class. We might try to end shortly after this. Actually, we might just finish with a quick create friendship or create pending relationship. So we'll do that quick and maybe do the block as well. So we'll do two quick, what's what I'm looking for? We'll do two quick routes and then we'll end for the day to finish up tomorrow when I can double check on the other relationship annotation I can add to developer. So the next question though is where do we bring this? Do we want a separate controller or do we want to bring it into one of our existing controllers? Should this be a separate route, like a relationship route, or do we want to put this under another controller that we already have?
I think it would go into the developer controller because it directly relates to the developers.
If it was going to go anywhere other than its own, it would definitely go there. I would agree that if it's going to go, if it's not going to have its own controller, I definitely think it would belong on a developer controller. I can agree with that 100%. But
And
do
I
we
would
think
agree
it
with
should
that
go there?
too.
Yeah.
What benefit would you get if you made it its own controller?
One, cleaner. The developer controller does get larger and bring in more repositories. It already has 4 repositories as it is, or 3 repositories and a service. So we're already at 4 entities already auto-wired. So that would be one benefit. Developer controller keeps getting bigger and bigger. We could, and that way we have an API/relationship route instead. Right now we have an API developers route. It might be nice to have an API relationship route. So that would be some of the benefits. Other than that,
Plus,
though,
if
there
we
really is
decide
no
to
other
drop
benefit. Yeah,
That's true, actually.
yeah. So now let's go ahead and get another controller.
Well,
Yeah, you
the
guys
other-
can see it
the other
again.
thing I would look at, yes, it should be in the developer controller, but then it depends on how many routes or how many routes are we actually generating? And if it's only like 1 or 2 of them, then it won't tie up the developer controller as bad as if we're gonna be writing a whole CRUD, which would tie that whole thing up even more.
I can see us doing a couple routes minimum, like definitely got the create, which is pending. We have to do the create block, which is an initial just block off the bat, and then we have the put. Those 3 minimum, and then maybe the delete as well. So we have create. Yeah, 2 creates: create pending, create block, update, and delete, and then probably even the get one, just to confirm does this relationship already exist. And then later on, we would need to add in the get all pending and then get friends. So we do have, there's a couple routes I'm thinking of, yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of big, so.
Yeah, sounds like it might be. So let's bring this up. Let's take a look and make sure we do this right. So at cross origin, that's in there, at rest controller, at request mapping, and it's going to be our /API/ and that's going to be double quotes. /relationships, and again, always plural on this.
So here's a question on this.
Go for it.
So we're gonna be, so this is the developer thing. So again, we would put it like, say, under the developer controller because it's all developer, but making it cleaner, we'll put it under its own controller. But what happens if we put the request mapping as API/developers /relationship or /developers, and all our routes are all / like relationship or whatever, and adding upon that route from here?
It's fine to do it here. Yeah, this again, as long as it's not identical to another one, it's fine. So we could do API/developers /relationships. If I understand JPA right, that should be allowed. It only cares if they're identical.
But if
So
you
this would be
just did developers here, but then you started adding new routes on the here, like relationship blocked, relationship.
Well, again,
create,
that you
relationship
saw
blocked.
that issue that would happen if we had 2 get mappings with nothing underneath it. It yells at us that there's a bad mapping.
Oh,
That
no,
would
no,
happen.
no, I'm saying that in this one, we would specify a get mapping, we would specify a post mapping, we would supposed to
Yeah,
specify all those specifically under that one. It would just seem to be a
I'm
pending.
still not sure what you're saying. Then I'm
So
not
you
sure
would
where
do
you're going with
like
this.
API/developers, right?
Mhm.
Then in the get mapping, you would do a mapping that would say relationship to get all or something like that, and it would run that in this controller, in the relationship controller.
Only if this was not a REST controller. So we could just make this a method and then a class, and then yeah, this thing could just call it, I believe, if we instantiate it or made these static items. So it's possible that it's just, that would be very confusing just to have some item that is different from this one. But yeah, you could theoretically do it, just I'm not seeing the point. So yeah, I'm not
I'm
really
just
seeing the
saying it's
benefit.
cleaner. I mean, we're just appending the developers routing to add all the relationship stuff to routing, but we're putting it in a separate controller.
Yeah. So before this, I didn't look up the common syntax for that. I would have to double check it to see if there's some sort of common pattern to that. So I don't know if I might have the pattern that other companies use for that, but I don't know. Yeah, I believe they just do it like this. But I would have to double check before I confirm. This is again, not worried, not something that you need to really worry about too much, but if you do want to do it, then yeah, if you can freely look up the common practice of nested REST controllers. So you can definitely look into that if you need to. Anyway, for now we're just going to do API relationships because that's the simplest way of going with it. I want to keep things simple for this. I don't want to get too dizzy on this.
No,
Keep it fairly simple.
I was just asking it just in case you came across it and I needed to know. That's good.
Not yet. Nope. Didn't actually build that yet.
All right.
Because I haven't done it. Example. Anyway, focus because I want to try to get at least one more route in before we end for the day. So, so we got the private. So we got to bring in the relationship repository. We are probably going to need the. We're going to need the user service because we need to be able to confirm the user that is approving, so we can then pull the developer. And so maybe we do need the developer repository though. Anyway, that's fine. User service, and we also need, we're going to need the developer repository so we can pull the developer from the user login and then connect them. So we are going to need the auto wired again. So this is where you might start considering maybe we need a developer service, but it's fine. Maybe we might do that. Developer repository.
You need a name for the relationship.
Thank you. We'll just call this one repository since this is the repository of this controller. So there we go. There, and I didn't put private on these, which I don't know why I didn't. There you go. That should be all we need for this, those three there. Let's do we'll do a post mapping quick. So we're just going to do the two creations. We'll do the one create for, so what we'll do as a class is do the post mapping. Well, we've actually probably just do all of them, it's fine. They're going to be simple enough. So post mapping to an import. So post mapping slash block, oh no, add, sorry. Add RID, which is the recipient ID. Now, if you want to type out recipient, go for it. I'm just going to use RID to keep the code a little quicker so we can type through it quicker, speed up the process. Click. This is going to return probably just a string for its success or just a message. So we'll do response entity string. Let's return the message. Good to go. Which again, might not be bad to have a object in your payloads as just a message. I think, did we create that actually? Hold on.
Yeah, we do.
Response. Oh yeah, message response. There we go. Response. And that I think it just returns a message, right? Yeah, message. Beautiful. I was like, wait a minute, this sounds familiar. We have a message item because I wanted that. Then you just send back success. Add relationship. And this will do a @path variable long RID. Let's hide this. We have more here. Yep. So just to get a comment, just to help again understand what we're doing here. Create a pending relationship between logged and user and RID. So let's go back and take a look at how we pulled the user again. So we scroll down to the, where do we do that again? Here we go. So right here under the get self, we can take a look at how we do that. So again, probably wouldn't hurt in the user service to set this up. So this is where we would probably build, or maybe in the developer service. In the developer service, we could probably set up a get logged in developer. So that's where you could do that. So here we're going to do user, current user, and I didn't import that. User, current user equals user service dot get current user. If current user is equal to null, return new response entity, new message response. User. Why is it upset?
You know, I had
Need
that.
a HTTP response, an HTTP status after that.
Thank you. What kind of HTTP status you guys thinking?
I used bad
.com.
request.
I like that one. That works for me. Yep, there it is. It's happy now. I was like, I thought it would be happy, but yeah, that makes that right. It's just weird that it put the error here on the little brackets. I'm like, why is it angry with the brackets? So there. Once we know we have a logged in user, we need to grab that user for the response for that relationship. So we need to do developer originator equals developer repository. And that's not a capital D, that's supposed to be a small d. Find by user ID. Take a look here, we do it. We do current user dot get ID or else throw. Here, or else throw. I do that. There, that way this can go back one like that. There we go. Cool. There. Here we can do new response status exception. Status not found. And again, what we could do is if you want to be able to provide the, and I did too many parentheses. If you want to be able to do send back again, you can still send back the message response. You could, of course, do the optional developer. And if empty, send back this system.
Does that response status need to be in curly braces?
Oh, no, it doesn't because it's one line. It's a one line item, so we don't need them. Right. Yeah, right. It's one line. It doesn't need to be. Forgot about that. There you go. So that should be happy. Good. And now we're also going to go ahead and grab the recipient as well. So we grab the originator. Now we also need the recipient. So, and developer recipient equals developer repository find by. This is going to be just ID this time, not user ID by ID. So this is where we have the developer ID. So remember, this RID is the developer's, the response is the recipient's developer ID. So here we got the user ID because we got the logged in user. Here, this is the recipient's developer ID. So always make sure you're aware of the difference there. On the ID, RID, dot, or else throw, and we're just going to grab this goes up right here again. So just grab all that, copy, paste that right in there. Now that we have our originator and a recipient, we have everything we need. We know the type already. What's the type? Sanity check. Remember,
The type of what?
So we're creating a new relationship. The relationship data that we need is, well, ID is already generated, and the other three fields is originator, recipient, and type. Well, we now have the originator here. We got the recipient. And what's the type for this?
Pending?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was yeah, pending. Okay.
Hey there. Sanity check, just make sure you guys are awake and paying attention. So we're gonna do, where is it? Return. Yeah, we should be able to do repository. We do a one-liner, repository dot save new relationship. Originator, recipient, comma, what is it? The relationship dot pending, right there. And that's how you bring that in. That should, why is that not happy?
Because it needs to be in a response entity.
You're right. So you know what, we'll actually do this. Maybe we do this on a separate line. Yeah, we do this on a separate line. So we're not returning that, sorry. We're gonna do that. And then on the new line, if that's successful, which again, we could wrap this in a try catch. We're not, we're just gonna assume for now that it is gonna be successful, but this is where you would add a to do a try catch. Yep. Turn response entity, new. Message response. Success. HTTP status. Created. Where is HTTP status created? There it is. Now we get back to 201. That look good? Nice guitar. I don't know where that guitar sound came from, but
It wasn't me this time.
you were actually highlighted when it came in. I'm like, that I know Matt has the guitar, but he appears to be typing right now. So that would be impressive if he was guitaring while typing.
I'm not that
good. Like, Matt, where's your feet? See, any questions on this code? So again, walk through again what's happening. So we hit the response entity. Again, this is because of our configurations, we know that all these routes are going to be secured. So the only way to access this route is to be logged in. So we get the current user as a failsafe. We do want to make sure that if that developer, that if that is empty, if somehow we do get this to this point and it wasn't able to pull the current user, we do want to send back that error message. If that somehow becomes a thing. Otherwise, we're going to pull that developer as the originator by using that user ID that we pulled. So this is the originator. The person logged in is the one that clicked on that add friend button. So grab them, and if we don't find them, we want to throw. We're again not expecting this to happen because we shouldn't get to this point if they were able to log in and get through this stuff. But sanity checks are always good and safety systems are important. Otherwise, our system can crash. This is the one we definitely need because again, we could get this, someone could just type this out in Postman. We know this now. People could just try to hit that route through like something like Postman or just kind of force it or try to intercept the request and change it. Like I said, if you're trying like we can say here, like Nathan is sitting in Starbucks and says, hey, I'm going to befriend, who have I not called out yet? Eridan. And so he's going to befriend Eridan and, you know, hacker Matt's there again. He's now sniffing. He finds that packet, says, no, you're going to be my friend. Puts his ID on instead. It's like, I need friends. Sorry, hacker Matt.
It'd be like that guy in MySpace who did I think it was Darknet Diaries. He made the worm that made everyone his friend. And
100%. That was him. Yep, there you go. There you go. That can be you. Yep. Who said bye? Let's see. Yep, Mike. All right, cool. We're wrapping up. So good. Yep. Well, unfortunately, Matt, I already put you as the packer early in the class. You're the hacker again.
Just a question. That try catch, are you gonna actually make it, or is it just that the line?
No,
that's it.
Not today. Again, if this is something that you guys are having trouble with, if you have trouble figuring out how to do this stuff, let me know. We can do a class later on. But this is a pretty standard, straightforward item. You can use the try catches and other methods to reference to how to do it. Again, you can just do the simple try catch all. So you can do a simple like try with the catch exception.
That's fine. I'm just asking if you're gonna do it now.
That's all. This would be the catch-all. If for some reason the save fails for any reason, this would catch all those exceptions, and then you can just throw in a generic 500 error. So you could try to print out the e-message here. So you can print out this to your console and then send back a response entity with message response, server error. You know what? Screw it. I'm pretty much explaining it. So try catch exception E. So we're going to catch all exceptions, and that's be a capital E. Exception E. We're going to do not console, system out, S out. Or dot get localized message. That way we print to our logging system on our server what the actual exceptions message is, and then we can just send back to our system return new response entity, new message response, server error, and the common HTTP status here would simply be HTTP status. Status. I don't know why it's not showing up. That's annoying me now. Oh, I did a period. That's why. Status. Internal error. That's what it's called. Internal error. Internal server error. That'd be a status 500. So you did everything right. We just failed. We don't know why it didn't save. We just know it didn't save, even though it should have. And so we can't tell you why it saved. We just know that something happened on the server. So we send you an internal server error saying, hey, something bad happened on our side. We can't tell us, we don't know if it's your fault or not. We can't say for certain it is. So we're going to say it's a server error, and then we'll be able to, in that way we know we got to get around it. So pretty much that just lets the user know it's unlikely that if you change this, it's going to work again. It's unlikely that if you do the same request or change something, it will work. Something went wrong on our side. You probably didn't do anything wrong. The other ones like here and here, this is kind of trying to tell the user, you made a mistake. We were able to find what you provided us. So this would have worked if we found it, but you gave us something we could not find. Bad request says, hey, you gave us bad data. If you gave us good data, we could probably, this would work. That's kind of the concept here. That's what these tend to mean. Sound good? But that's how you would do that one. Is it's just a generic until you looked into the details of what kind of exceptions this might throw. So if you looked at it, you could probably take a look and see that it can, what kind of things it can throw.
But if it didn't get the,
Illegal argument exception. There you go. So this is the one it would look to, it looks to throw a legal argument exception. So you could catch that specifically if you wanted to. So what you would do is you would update this exception to be a legal argument exception, and it would catch that one specifically. Any other exceptions, it would just do the normal process. That's if you wanted to look up specific items. Sound good? Cool.
so my question is okay, so it gets past the if statement.
Mhm.
Okay, so it
Which
doesn't
one?
go to that request.
This one?
It manages to get past the developer because we do have a developer because we've already got that.
Who logged in? Yep.
And then when it hits this, though, it hits, okay, so perhaps the recipient is not found. It's just, we'll just give it an error, say not found.
Yep.
And this, then the try catch will catch it because it can't write that recipient.
Sorry, what?
So
Well, yeah, if it fails to
on
write,
45,
yeah.
this is going to fail on this part because I can't save it, right?
Again, this is unlikely to fail, but let's say for some reason it does. That's why, again, it's an internal server error. This is unlikely to happen, but the thing to keep in mind is that it can. Things can fail. Weird things happen. You can't expect all items. And really, I'm adding this mostly for you for later on, especially for those like who mentioned about the validating their entities. So for those that have like the not null or not blank, things like that, when you're validated, you need this on a save, because if you go to save something that is missing a required item, it's going to create an invalid argument exception. That's what's going to happen. Or if you somehow provided the wrong object, you don't give it a relationship. If you would have sent it something that isn't valid, no, I don't think you can, because your code would tell you no, you're not giving me a relationship. But anyway, but yeah, it would fail. Most of the reason why the save would fail is one, the item already exists and you're trying to save it again, but it doesn't work because this thing will overwrite the existing. Save is used for both saving and creating and updating. What it will do though is, like I said, if you have
the question is that Why
Not
why
blank.
wouldn't you put the try up on 44? Because the recipient could fail, but you know the developer is good because, well, not necessarily either, but
Again, I can't save them unless I have both.
right, but
And this won't throw an exception. This technical will just throw a different type of exception. So, and we already have this or else throw.
okay.
So yeah, we already handled the except. We didn't, because find by ID won't throw by default. It'll just return an optional. So if it doesn't find it, it won't throw. This does not throw. Find by ID does not throw. It will by default return an optional unless it does the or else throw. The or else throw will take the result of this, the optional, and say, and it pretty much does, it's a shorthand for doing the if empty, do this. And so if it says, so what it does, it says if empty, run this function. If not, return the developer to this item. So that's all this is doing for us. This will not error. The problem is if we move this up, this is an exception. This is throwing an exception, and that means this guy will catch it. Will catch this, and we don't want it to catch this. So we need it down
The
here.
thing is, if the recipient doesn't exist, then obviously the save is going to error out. Well, I guess not. Maybe maybe I'll put a null in there.
Right, because we didn't put a not null.
Yeah.
If I did, then we need this. But yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Because I was thinking just because you put the try catch, you put a try catch here, but like these two above lines could also be errored out as well.
Again, but if they do, they will kick back before they can error out because of these lines right here. These two things will kick it back.
So, that will kick it out even before it hits the try catch. That would be done. That would be finished. Okay.
Exactly.
All
Yep.
right.
Yep.
Yeah, I forget.
These will, yep, because these do a throw, which again, a throwing of an exception will pop it up to will end this function. Exceptions, if not caught, end the method that it's in. So if you do not catch an exception will end the method you're in. So if a method does not catch exceptions, it sends the exception to the previous method in the stack, which is now going back to Spring. So you don't know the method that called this. You just need to know it's a Spring method that called it, and so Spring will then handle it. And so since if Spring handles response status exceptions, it knows to send it back as this status. So
those are its own little try catches themselves. So okay, all right. I keep forgetting that. But
what I will say, like you said, like I said, what you could do, of course, and I'm not going to actually do this. We could move this up to here. Put in the illegal argument exception here to catch if the save fails, and then do another catch down here.
If the other two
of
top ones fail.
Yeah, a responsive status exception, which if you highlight this, we'll see it says throws this. So it throws that exception. So then we could catch that exception and react on that one, and send back another message response saying not found or invalid user, whatever we want to do. Is that all right?
Yep.
All right. Cool. All right. Making it complicated, Jim.
Well, no. It's just
I'm not really. No, I'm not really. I'm just picking on you.
I know, but I just forget sometimes these or else throws are actually try catches in themselves and
yes,
and such. Yeah.
Technically, yes. Again, they aren't really because again, the find by ID it does not throw.
No, but I'm just saying that if it comes back, this or else throw just tells me that there is a catch if something else should happen or something should go awry.
Yeah.
It's going to be caught.
Again, it's caught though by the previous method, not by this. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. This throws it back to Spring Boot. Just be aware of that. This is thrown back to Spring Boot, not handled by or else throw is not catching it. Spring Boot is catching this and then responding back and responding to it correctly. So just be aware of that. It's all good. I think we're just gonna stop here for this item. We have the one post mapping. We went a little longer on it than I expected, but the other ones will be pretty similar to this. So the block is identical to this except a different item. So the only thing that changes is right here. This is the only thing that will change. Everything else will be identical. And so it is something you can think about. Could we change this to be both? Could we actually just create a initialized relationship and have it be like a path variable or a body variable? We could make it be a query item where we do add RID, and then /23 question type equals block or pending. Right, so we could do that. I don't think it's necessary because then we would have to do some sort of condition to check for blocker pending. I think it's perfectly fine to just redo this. And and really, if you argue it, we could pull all this stuff into a private method if we needed to, if we wanted to. So all good.
Well, good.
Cool. All right. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Again, for your homework, since again, you need authentication to do this, continue working on your personal projects with a priority again for cohort 11 and 12 on getting some sort of working authentication in your Expressian or personal apps. I'm going to give you guys the goal of getting it done. Like I said, I think I said get it done by next Friday. Shoot for this Friday though. So that way, and because of what I'm thinking is if you don't have it done by this Friday, you should be asking me questions about authentication. All right. If you don't have it done by Friday and you haven't asked me a question or how to get through the authentication, I'm going to take it as you're not working on it. All right. So for this week, if it's not working by Friday, that's my mother, sorry. Why is she calling me this late? She's usually asleep by like 9. I'll have to pick up in a second. But yeah, if your authentication is not done by Friday, you should be asking me some sort of question because that means you're probably stuck on it. So make sure you put some time aside this week, either tomorrow, Wednesday, sometime on Thursday, sometime on Friday to work on it. Because yeah, if you don't have it working by Friday, I expect you on Sundays, office hours asking for help. All right. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. I'll see you all tomorrow.
Cliff, can I just see something real quick? You can stop
Yeah.
recording. I just wanted to see the